We have this lonely old style sheet here, not doing anything. It's kind of sad. So our page looks like a whole lot of nothing. Let's make it look slightly less like nothing. Anybody ever use Google Fonts? Tell us all about it, Kim. It's a website full of fonts you'll never guess from Google that you can use. So, what's that? Photos from Yahoo, is that what you said?
No, I said thought it was from Yahoo.
Oh, you thought it was from Yahoo. I know, clever name, right? They're trying to trick you. So, this is a pretty good time to be doing this stuff. There's a lot of stuff we didn't have, 10 years ago or more. Or I'm pretty sure web fonts were invented 10 years ago, but they were not widely supported, or they were supported in wildly different ways in different browsers. So it was a much bigger pain in the neck to use them. Plus, internet connections were even slower, so it often wasn't practical to use them. Still, you have to be careful not to get too crazy with the fonts, or you can very quickly make your page like 10 megs, and that's just not nice to do. But Google Fonts is a pretty cool resource for fonts that are free to use on your site. You can get all kinds of good stuff. Just make things look not default. There's a lot to be said for just not default. All kinds of good stuff. You can search by categories. Let's see. Serif, sans serif, display, handwriting, monospace. What's serif and sans serif? That's a serif, yeah, more or less, yeah.
Serif has the little pointy things.
Little pointy things. So let's see, these all look sans serif. Sans, Latin for without, right? Here we go. Here's a serif font. So those little boogers, those are serifs. So if we uncheck sans serif, we're going to see all serifs all the time. Display fonts are usually going to be slightly more decorative. You can look up just handwriting fonts, every single one of which looks better than Comic Sans. There's monospace. You know what monospace fonts are? It means every character, fixed width. Every single character takes up exactly the same amount of space. The kind of fonts you use inside a code editor, right? So that things line up nicely. If you're using a variable width font, that would be a nightmare. Yeah. We can sort by trending. Everything's trending these days. I tell you what, kids today and their trends and their influencers, I swear. Open Sans is a fairly common just default replacement that looks pretty nice. If you find one you want to use, you can always see Specimen and just see some more examples, see some fonts that pair with it nicely, that kind of stuff. Get an idea of where it's used. This is used mostly in the country known as 3 asterisks. I have no idea what that means. If you actually want to use that font, hit the little plus, and you'll see this pop up, one family selected. Have a look there. It'll tell you how to use it. It'll tell you so far, load time is fast. So, gives you 2 options here, standard and import. You can also customize if you want to include bold and italics and stuff like that. You can add those. It adds a little bit to the load time because you're basically including a whole bunch more characters that weren't in there before. I don't know that we need it, so I'm not going to use it for now. Also, different weights. There's more than just regular and bold. There's light. There's all kinds of options for this one. Then standard way, you just copy this link tag, place it in the head of your document alongside your other style sheet. I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to use an @import statement.
Where would you place that link if you wanted to?
If you wanted to do the link, just do it in the head of your document right before your other link to your style sheet. Always put your own style sheet last in the list so that you have a greater chance of overwriting styles that are defined in frameworks and stuff. So you'd put it right above line 8. The other way to use an import statement inside CSS, so notice it puts it in between style tags. The point being, yes, you could do it that way, but the point being that goes inside an actual style sheet. So I just copy this line, this @import line, and I'm just going to put it at the top of my CSS file. So all my style-related stuff is in the same place. And then it tells you how to use it. Font family, open sans, in quotes, comma, sans serif. Anybody know what that's about? Having a font name and then comma, something else. Basically, it means if you can't find that font or that font hasn't loaded yet, fall back to this. So you'll often see rather lengthy lists. Like, I prefer Helvetica. If we don't have Helvetica, we'll do Arial. Failing that, we'll just do any sans serif font that's available on your platform. Stuff like that. So did I do that? Yeah, I pasted that in there. So we need a CSS rule. So you use selectors just like we use in Query Selector. To have it apply to everything on the page, how about body? Body's a totally valid HTML element. So the anatomy of a CSS rule, we have a selector followed by curly braces. And inside the curly braces, a series of CSS properties and values, each one separated by a semicolon. Semicolons are not optional. So font family, that's a CSS property. Let's just copy this in here. So I'll say font family, open sans, in quotes, single quotes, double quotes, doesn't matter, comma, sans serif. So if we fail to find open sans, there it is. What we're actually importing here is a CSS file that actually includes the font itself and defines this open sans font family. So if I save that and I go back and I refresh the page, now everything just looks a little less default. We haven't done much, but I'm going to go ahead and commit that much. Add open sans font from Google.